Welcome back to Open Studio. Okay, we're digging in. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start up in, I'm going to start up in this corner, and I'm just going to kind of work my way across and see how far we can get. So, like I said, it's going to be a little bit of everything. So there'll be a little bit of scratching, like for instance, there's a little nut right here. Some highlights on it. The other thing that's going on here is the light is getting through here somehow, so I'm going to have to grab some, I'm going to use some background color, I think, because I'm not sure what is actually going on there. If it's the background that's coming through or if it's just a light on another part. And ultimately it doesn't matter. You know, it's just, if I can't figure it out, it's not a big deal. Sometimes it's just, you know, a game that I play. It's like I try to figure it out, and if I do, all right. So no, actually, I know it's not the background because the sidecar is behind it. So it's just a little bit of light that's hitting a piece back here. I'll extend this out a little bit because I'm going to hit this with the airbrush to kind of fade it back in. But I got to get the light part on there first. So again, this is going to be a little bit bigger than what it's ultimately going to be. And I didn't have to scratch that. I could have used the same color now that I'm looking at it. Not a huge, gigantic deal. The other thing, there's some highlight on this piece too. And there is background. No, there isn't background there. What is that? I don't know. But it's here, so I'm putting it in. And again, I don't want to get too far away from this first corner. I really, really, really want to get this area done and then move on, like not have to go back to it. Again, this is how I'll eliminate the, oh, I should get back to that, and then I never do. You know, I don't want any of that here now. Because then you just have a list that's way too long. Like, you know, it's like, and if you didn't write it down anywhere, you have no idea where to go. You know, it's like, oh, what did I say I was going to do? And then you don't realize it, or I don't realize it until the painting is done, and in the frame it's like, oh, said I was going to fix that. And that's no good. So we're going to get it all done right now. I won't move out of, like, you know, a ½ an inch area until it's done. I've also, you guys are looking at this much brighter than it really is. I've turned the exposure so that you guys can really see the, you know, the details. It's much darker than this. If I were to move this back down to like a visible exposure, like what you'd look at for real, like right now the ISO is huge on this. So really, realistically, this painting is about here. That's what it really looks like to, you know, to the viewer just looking at it. But I've brought this way up so that you guys can see all the, you know, the details in it as we're doing it. Okay, I think we're good there. So did I get everything here? There's a little screw there that I missed. So I got to grab that. Use some gray for that as well. And where is that? That is, I got that screw. It's up. Oh, I already did get it. It's up here. Good. A couple other little, yeah, those things. Those things. And I got that. Okay, good. So that's that. That's that little section. Do I want to deal with this now since I've got it? Well, yeah. This is within the striking distance of what I was just working on. So the highlight on the top of these fins, I scratched them in. They're a little bit rough. So I'm going to use the paintbrush to kind of smooth them out before I hit it with the airbrush. And I screwed that one up, so I'll have to fix that before I airbrush it, but that's okay. What did I do? I totally missed that. Here we go, that's better. This one's more here. That's better. Good. And again, those are bigger than they need to be. See how bright they are right now? They're not going to be when I'm done. It means I have to airbrush on top of them. And I got to fix the little mistake that I made there. So I'm going to grab some black. So this one here is a little bit too wide because I put it in the wrong spot to start. So we'll get rid of that one, or clean it up a little bit. And then there's an errant scratch right here. This was in totally the wrong spot, so I'm just going to get rid of that right now too. Again, this is what happens, you know, I'm just kind of throwing stuff in and not really paying attention, and maybe it's not quite in the right spot, and now's the time to really kind of fix it and clean it up. I'm going to tighten up the edge of this too. Stick at the black in the brush. Get that, there's a little nut or bolt at the end of that, so I'm going to clean that up too. And this edge down here needs to be a little bit darker too. Here we go. I like that. I like it. Again, I don't want to go too far. I don't want to run away with it. Be easy to do because, again, like I said in the last episode, I just start, you know, kind of wandering around the painting. And if I'm using black, I'm just wandering around, putting black everywhere it needs to go. And it does need to go there, but again, if it gets me too far away from the area that I really want to finish, it's going to be rough because I'll forget what I was doing in the original area. So I really want to stick to like just this area right here. Make sure I get everything. Okay, what's going on up here? This is part of that area too, so I'll clean that up a little bit. Oh, there's a nut at the top of this too, or bolt, something. Clean that up. This is the very last thing. Again, this copper tube here. I don't have to do this until the very end. This tube isn't even included in what I'm doing right now, because I'll do this whole tube all at once. It's just all the stuff around it, or behind it, actually, sorry. Good, 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 good. Everything good? Yeah, that's too far down. I don't need that. I need up here. Okay. This could probably be tightened up a little bit too. And it's this tightening up that really is the key. You know, it's like, as I kind of work through this, each pass that I do and each more refined, as it gets more and more refined, those edges that need to be pulled out really get pulled out closer to the end. Again, that first pass is really to just kind of block everything in, get everything in kind of in the right spot. And then it's the more refined passes later on that really develop those sharp details. And that's what the difference between, or the way that the depth is developed in this painting is those, or are those differences between sharp edges and fuzzy edges. You know, those fuzzy edges kind of recede and they kind of, you know, get blended in, where the sharp edges pop out. So it's that balance of the two that really help out. This area is exceptionally dark right in here, which is good. That's an airbrush category right there. I am going to do this up here because I think this area right here, the fins here, well, you know what? Let me do this area and the top of the head, because I think I can get all that done without missing anything. So what that involves is, oh, that one's the other way, isn't it? This one's straight on down. This one is the other way. Okay. Again, and this is what it is. It's just refining each one of the little bits until, like this fin here is more towards the right. You know, if there was a fin directly straight onto us, it would be between these two fins right here, but there isn't. So this one kind of goes to the right, which I didn't have that correct originally. And this one here goes to the left. So I'll just kind of pump that out a little bit so it's looking correct. There's a highlight on that too, which I can get. Since I did all these highlights too, I can do the rest of them across the top and get them all in the same way. So that when I go into the airbrush, it's consistent across all the, you know, the top of them. I didn't do one and then do a bunch later and have them be different. These will all be the same. So the highlights are mostly on the ones that are right, almost edge on, like this one. And again, you have that sharp, not sharp edge, but you have that, you know, that edge on the top of this head. And even though it's rusted or corroded, that edge really is tough to remain corroded. It just gets shined up by whatever contact is being made to it, you know, whether it's road debris or whatever. So those edges have a difficult time having that beautiful, like, soft patina that the tank has. So we're going to kind of accentuate that too. There's some blue in this here, so I'll add some of that. And this gray is a kind of a grayish blue anyway, so that works out really well. Same down here. And since I've got the blue still in here, I'm going to look around real quick to see if there's anything else I got to grab. Just a touch of it up there. There we go. Good. Now I think we're in airbrush category again, and then that whole section will be done. Like done, like never come back to it again, ever. Which I like, because then we move on. We get more stuff done closer to the finish line. These steps here, like when you look at the photo of each, so the idea is each photo on the beginning of the video is the point where I stopped working on it. So you get a preview when you look at the title. Sometimes I'm going to admit to you, sometimes I forget to take the photo after I'm done. So it's not 100% perfect, but for the most part it is. So what I was going to say was, as we get closer to the end here, those photos are going to look very similar, because you end up just working on a very small area, and what would normally seem like not a very big impact, you know, when you look at the overall painting, because you're, you know, kind of prodding through it, but it does you know, have a big impact because you're actually finishing finally bits and pieces of it. All right, so again, the strength of the airbrush is that it can do these wonderful fades. I can take those kind of harsh paintbrush highlights and just very carefully soften the edges up a little bit, maybe even, you know, push them back a little bit as they go behind here. But they're still there, you know, they still pop out, but they're not as in your face anymore. And that's, like I said, that's super easy to do with the airbrush, really, you know, challenging to do with a paintbrush. All right, so this guy down here, I got to add that shading, and again, just kind of soften that. Soften that highlight there. These highlights here are way too in your face. Again, it's okay. That's why I did them as bold as I did, so that I could go back in with the airbrush and just kind of fade each side of them and, you know, paint around them. Now there was another area here, up here. Again, this is why we finish a section, because if I start getting too much, like I would have forgot that I needed to darken this all down up here. And how dark is it? You can see, yeah, you can see the attachment point here. It's shaded, but behind it is almost all black. So just gonna do that. And I can also do these fins at the same time. Same thing. You know, just kind of airbrush between them, and that little tiny bit of overspray just kind of softens those paintbrush strokes up to the point of now they look like they're supposed to look. They don't look like they're paintbrushed. They don't look like they're airbrushed. They just look like what they're supposed to look like. Again, for those keeping track, I didn't mention it, but anytime I'm doing stuff like this with black, this is always 1 to 10. 1 part paint to 10 parts reducer through this brush. Pretty much always. Any kind of detail painting, you know, it's always at 1 to 10. All right, just keep rolling around this thing, softening up highlights that need to be softened up, softening up shadows that need to be softened. Are we done with this? No, because I forgot that bit. Okay. This little part right here is like a steel gray, like the background. This little triangle right on this side. So that gray right there that I have right here should have come around here too, which I didn't get, which is okay. This is background, right where I'm painting right now. I don't know about this part up here, so I'm just gonna, again, at this point, I'm just doing what's there. I'm not gonna try to second guess it. Okay, so the frame down here, that's done now. Is that done? How's that looking right there? I have a feeling that should be a little bit darker, and it should. So we'll grab the airbrush for that. Also, this right here, yeah, I almost forgot that. See? That's why we do it. Start here because I know I'm going to forget it. This area right here needed that fade going out to whatever it is. So it's dark and then it gets light as it kind of clears whatever is casting a shadow on it. But it's super subtle in there, see? Now it's tucked back where it should be. Same thing with this little spot right here. It's another one, I don't know what it is, but it's there. So I'm just gonna kind of fade it out a little bit. All right, the top here, this part right here. This is too light. This is way darker than it should be. And I just missed it. You know, when I was blocking it in, I just didn't paint it in. There we go. So now that's tucked back in, and that's good. All that work for that little area. Now again, you guys are seeing this much bolder than it really is, much brighter than it really is. But again, that was done on purpose because I want you guys to I want you to be able to see it. Sometimes if you're at the correct viewing exposure, you won't see those subtle fades that I'm putting in. So this way it's just brutal. It's in your face. All right, where to go next? Let's go across. We'll go across, and then that way we could just go down. I could go anyway. I could slide down and work on the frame or whatever, but I'm going to keep going across. I think that's going to be good. All right. So rinse and repeat. There are some things I got to adjust here. Let's go paintbrush first. All right. That's plenty brown. This is really like brass coppery on the top here. This stuff is good. That's good. I've got that, all that. Oh, maybe I can just go into the airbrush. Huh. A little bit of gray here though. I have this is like kind of a brownish, that rusty color, but this is more blue. So we'll get that in there now. Again, this seems bright, but I'm going to airbrush around it. This here is very brassy, coppery, so I don't have to do much with that right now because it's already brown enough. I just have to put the highlights in on it, and then we'll deal with this too. Yeah, there's more texture here than I have, so let's do this whole area. Since this is pretty much done, I just got to airbrush it. Again, this tube right here, that's at the end. Same thing with this tube. All three of these tubes, the fuel and everything. That's all done at the when I move off of this section. So which I'm just about there. When I get this done, the fins here are in good shape. So when I get this done, I might end up just doing the tubes. We'll see. I could definitely do this one. These two here move into areas I haven't done yet. So, all right, let me put the texture on this piece here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab the gray again. How light is that? It's pretty light. Let's see where this gray falls. So what I'm going to do with the paintbrush is I'm just going to kind of scumble in, lightly touch in some texture on this. Since I have this thing really, really smooth, I just blocked it in. I didn't really do much to it. So we'll add the texture to it now. This is pretty much a dry paintbrush technique. So I've got a little bit of paint on here, and then I'm kind of off to the side. I'm just kind of removing a lot of the paint, so it's pretty dry. And that gives me this kind of stippled pattern. Obviously, if the paint is real loose, if it's real thin, it'll flow off the brush and make that puddle we were talking about last time. So I used that gray that was on the palette. That worked out okay. So I'm going to grab a little bit lighter color here and do the same thing. And by kind of going over it with a lighter color and then a darker color, I lose that repetitive pattern feel, that because I'm not spinning the brush, so I'm essentially putting a very similar paintbrush stroke down every time. I could spin the brush, you know, it's a good way to do it. But also just by going over it with another color breaks up that paintbrush stroke. So the idea is this real quick. Grab a piece of paper, I'll show you. and a pencil. There we go. So, wow, that's really overexposed, sorry, but you'll get the idea. So if I put a paintbrush stroke down, this is like magnified. So say I put down this paintbrush stroke like this, and it's like this, right? You can't see it. Oh boy. Let's do that again with less exposure so you can actually see that. There it is. All right. So I just put a dot down, right? And then if I go in with another color, say whatever, I'll do darker for this time. But if I go in now with another color, like darker, and then say I hit it again with a lighter color, like over here. It's the same paintbrush stroke, right? Over and over again. It's just 3 paintbrush strokes. But now this original one has this shape. Like this cutout weird, like you know, like this shape. You know? So now that it doesn't look uniform anymore. They're all different. And that's kind of what's going on with this. Okay. You know, it was a really bad idea? Doing that drawing on this painting. Someone needs to, I need to do this live so you guys can yell at me. But you guys can yell at me in the comments, that's fine. Like, don't do that. All right. Oh, it's so dark. The ISO is at 2500 now, which is crazy, but now we're just insane. We're at 1280 right now. But again, this way you can see it, and that's what we want. All right, so I've got that texture on there started. I'm going to keep going with that a little bit. Remember, just kind of get paint on the brush and then do a bunch of strokes off to the side. And that takes a lot of the paint out and then lets the rest of it kind of dry in place. So not dry, but get more dry so that I can put these little stipples. And that's good. That'll work. All right. Am I a paintbrush now? I mean, I airbrush with this? I think I am. There's some little highlights on here. We'll put those highlights on after because they sit on top of everything else. Yep, I think we're at airbrush time. Good. Making some progress. I like it. Let me start in the back. Start in the back and move forward, I think. And it's exactly the same thing. Like I can see all these paintbrush kind of edges that I already set from the last time around. So I'm just going to go in and, you know, blend out off of those edges if I need to, like in here where it gets dark, and soften everything up. Push everything back like this. Needs to be pushed back quite a bit. So squinting really helps a lot too. Like if you're looking at the reference material, or even live drawing or whatever, and you need to kind of identify the bigger values. It's a really old trick and it works great. You just squint your eyes, and what it does is it reduces the number of values that you're seeing. So if you ever get in a bind and you're really like overwhelmed with what you're looking at, just squint your eyes. It'll really help you kind of see the lightest lights and the darkest darks, and you know, depending on how hard you squeeze your eyes or squint your eyes, you know, that'll give you the number of values. If you want a computer version of this, if you're using like Photoshop, you can use posterize, and then you can reduce the number of values that make up a black and white photo, for instance, or color photo for that matter. And that works really well too. Because once we simplify it and then get those simplified values in, then we can refine it and go nuts. You know, add all those million different variations that are there. All right, so I'm going to get the rest of the shading in on this little guy right here. This is there's a little highlight on the top of this, so I got to grab that after. Okay, that's good. Now we move on to the part I scumbled to add that texture on there. And now I can add the rest of the, again, the airbrush can put that texture in, but on a much softer way. So that's what I'm going to end up doing. So as I kind of shade the rest of this out, I'm not doing a real smooth fade. I'm just kind of letting the trigger very slightly rock back and forth, like, you know, imperceptibly. And that will give me not an even coat. It'll give me kind of a mottled coat, and that works out perfect for this. And it's pretty dark down the bottom. I didn't develop the dark as quite as much as it needs to, but that's okay. I'd rather be able to add dark, a dark value than try to take it away. It's much easier to darken it than lighten it. All right, how are we looking? Another part done? Is that what we're doing? Yeah, we have half the motor done now. Because all this is good, right? All this stuff, these fins here, they're all good. I'm happy with all that. Yeah, the top half of the motor is done. I am loving this. Anything else? Just a quick check before I move on. Yeah, I think we're good. I think we're good. All right, so let's, I've done all this now. This is a whole thing. That's like a whole episode right there. So let me move out to the frame, because I think I might be able to kind of button up the frame completely in this episode too. So the frame, let me see if I have the cutout for that, because that's against the background. So in order to sharpen that up a little bit, it would be really nice to have the cutout. So let me look through. I haven't looked at that cutout since, geez, the beginning of this painting. I don't exactly know, A, if I have it, and B, no, I don't have it because I didn't. How did I do that then? I don't know. Okay, well, we're going to wing it. We are going to wing it because it's pretty much at the value it needs to be at anyway. All I really got to do is kind of tighten up the edges. So we're going to do that with templates then, because we can. So what I'm going to do for you guys though is I'm going to flip this upside down, because with a template I want to be able to use the air to hold it down. So I'm going to put this on here. I've got this nice frame piece right here that I do not want to get an extra overspray on, so I'm going to use that there. So now I've got the angle, and now I can just take the black and kind of tighten up that edge on the top. Like that. So when I pull that out, now that's nice and tight. That's great. That's going to work out good. Again, if I had a cutout for this, it would be easier. But the template will work. The templates do a good job. It takes a little longer because you got to be more careful with the templates. You don't want to get, spray where you don't want it. So you have to find the right curve and that kind of thing. But it's not terrible. And it gets to the point where, like, I would be like, okay, just cut a template out. But right now we're doing good. I'll just take it in bits and pieces, And it's probably good that I kind of slow down a little bit anyway, that I'm not like blasting through this. And templates do that. They do slow you down. Because you're constantly thinking about, not getting paint where you should not have paint. You know what I mean? So, but that's going good. La 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 la. Yep, it needs to be tighter there. So I'll use. And it's amazing, like this little guy right here, this mini big shield. It's amazing how, you have all these different curves in this painting, and for some reason, these templates generally have a curve to match everything you're doing. They're really well thought out. I don't know that you can still get this one. If you can, I'll try to put a link in the description. It was an anniversary type of thing. It was the 20th anniversary of this template when these came out, but I'm pretty sure you can still get them. You get 3 of them in the pack, I think. 3 or 4 of this. It's the same shape, just different sizes, which is awesome. This little one is my favorite by far. Although I do use the big shield a lot. Nice. Just cleaning it up. All right, that top edge doesn't really need it. That needs to be fixed though. Well, does it? No, because the shadow's behind there. I think that's good. All right. Yeah, we're going to leave it there. Let me do this. Do I want to do this? Yeah, I'll do this for you now. I don't know that I can do that with this lens in, so I'm going to try. I'll get you, all right, I'll get you a head-on view anyway. Give me 2 seconds here while I fumble about. There's that. There's that. Let's get you guys down out of the stratosphere as far as exposure, and that's about the real thing right there. So there we go. Ha! All right, so yeah, that's done. That's done. That's done. We got to get this section done on the next one, and then we'll put these tubes in, and then we can start working on the last little bits, the pad down here, and the controls. So there you go. All right, so there's your open studio. We're homing in on it, kids. Thank you very much. Thank you for hitting that like and subscribe. It definitely helps feed the algorithm monster around here. Again, I don't have to say it, but I'm going to say it. I thoroughly, deeply appreciate the support of members and also of Patreon members. You guys keep the ball rolling here. And also those people who have thrown out thanks on videos. That means a ton too when you just, you hit that thanks button on the video itself. So thank you. Here we go. All right. So I'm Steve Leahy. This is Open Studio. I was going to say Tech Tuesday, but this is Open Studio. Love you guys. I will catch you guys next time. Thanks a lot.